If you're tired of sitting on the 405 freeway in traffic, then stay tuned to CityWorks to find out how your future is about to get moving. Hello everyone and welcome to CityWorks. I'm Valerie Starn. Today we're going to talk about the 405 Freeway Expansion Project. Joining me now from the Orange County Transportation Authority is Christina Byrne, Department Manager of Public Outreach, and the 405 Project Manager, Jeff Mills. Welcome to the both of you.
Thank you.
I started off by saying your future is about to get moving, but it's going to slow down a little bit first before that can happen. This is a massive project. How far back do we go to even talk about when the ideas were coming about for this expansion project?
Well, the planning studies started on this project about 13 years ago. So over a decade of planning has led up to where we are today.
How massive is this project? What is the scope of the work being done?
The scope of the work being done, first from a massive standpoint, it is a $1.9 billion project. So it is a large project by any account. And what we're doing on the project is we're adding one regular lane from Costa Mesa at the 73 up to the I-605 in Seal Beach, which is a length of about 16 miles. And then we're also adding a second lane in each direction that will combine with the existing carpool lane to create dual express lanes, or the 405 express lanes, between the 73 and the 605. So essentially we're widening the existing facility, which is 5 lanes in both directions, to 7 lanes in both directions. So in total, 4 lanes will be added for about 15 to 16 miles. So it's a large project.
Let's talk about the need for this. Now, anybody that's driven this stretch of road, especially at rush hour, already knows it's hard to get anywhere. But how many drivers are we talking about, and what kinds of time delays do you know the drivers experience?
It's significant travel delays right now. It could be upwards of an hour just to go those 16 miles. And this project, the benefits of this project is we're going to be significantly cutting down the travel time from end to end for motorists in the area as they could travel and commute or may go to work, school once the project's complete.
How many more drivers are you expecting? Say if this had not launched and it was going to remain as is, how many more drivers and how much worse could it have gotten?
Well, this is one of the busiest freeways in the United States. There's about 370,000 vehicles who use this facility every day, which is a number that is almost hard to imagine. And over the next 20 years, by 2040, there'll be a 30% growth in that number. So it's a very heavily used freeway today, and the growth will continue throughout, whether we build this project or not.
You talked about the lanes that you're adding, and you're involving additional lanes, carpool lanes, express lanes. The express lanes involve a toll. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden the 405 is going to have a new option for drivers to pay if you want to travel that particular lane. But really, when you're planning a project like this, what are the options you're looking at? Because the area is built out. So the idea of eminent domain and just saying, hey, we need the space to create 5 more lanes, 7 more lanes, 10 more lanes of freeway, I mean, that would have been taking out thousands of homes. That's not an option then, correct?
Right. When we started the planning studies, we looked at a variety of different options. Some of those options included a double-decker of the freeway, because of a lot of residential communities adjacent to the facility, that was not well received, and there's also seismic or earthquake concerns on something like that. We also looked at kind of what it would take in order to widen the freeway to eliminate congestion, and it was so many lanes that it would in fact have displaced many homes, and so that also wasn't well received. So that's kind of how we ended up where we were, with generally building within the existing right-of-way and footprint that we have available. And then in certain cases, we do need to acquire some right-of-way, but we've minimized that through the planning and design process, working with the cities and all of the stakeholders involved.
In planning a project like this, you're not talking about just the lanes, you're talking about the access roads and I would imagine a lot of bridges as well. Mm-hmm. So factoring that in, then the scope of the work, you're also, as you mentioned, having to deal with those individual communities where that access road is. You talked about the planning stages. So when you work with those cities, you come in and say, we need to do this, is that okay? Or how does that conversation happen?
We work collaboratively. We have what's called a project development team, which is essentially a team that includes all of the cities and other stakeholders, Caltrans and OCTA, and we sit down across the table and talk about what's necessary on the facility. So there are great improvements being done and benefits on the freeway itself, but one of the great benefits of this project that is often overlooked is we are replacing 18 bridges that cross the freeway. 18? 18.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a lot.
And when we do that, it's a lot, and one of our challenges on the project is to keep traffic moving, and that's one of the key collaborative points that we work with the cities, to have a traffic management in place so that when we build those bridges, there's a good route for folks to get around, and that that we minimize disruptions to traffic. And the important thing to remember is when we're done, those bridges are being built to their ultimate width. And so they will include all of the lanes necessary for the local traffic circulation to work better, as well as add sidewalks and bike lanes to those facilities. So oftentimes what you see is a local street that's very wide, and then as you get to the freeway, it narrows and becomes a choke point and then widens back out again. This will be the opposite, where the bridge itself will be very wide in order to accommodate that local circulation, and it's a tremendous benefit to the city local circulation. And I think that's ultimately what got the cities to buy in that this was a good idea, because there were a lot of improvements on their local roadway system.
You're both in charge of a massive project affecting hundreds of thousands of people, and all eyes are on this project because they want it to go as smoothly as possible. How long is this going to take?
This will be a 6-year total effort, 1 year of design and then 5 years of construction. And throughout that process, we have a very robust community outreach program. So we'll be working with hand in hand with the public to make sure they're informed every step of the way and they have the information they need to travel and plan their lives accordingly.
When we come back, we'll talk more about how the public can be ahead of any issues that are going to come about, be informed about the actual construction dates of something that may or may not have a greater impact, and also more details of how this construction is being done. How do you do such a massive project? And we'll be back with more City Works right after this.
You have the time to give. You have the capacity to care. You have the experience to contribute. And your country needs you, one of its greatest assets. Americans whose lifetime of knowledge and know-how will make the difference. Take what you learned in the workplace and apply those skills to your community. Shape tomorrow by being a mentor and tutor for children. Make independence a reality for people who need assistance and companionship to continue to make their house their home. Make a difference today. Get involved.
Welcome back to City Works. We're talking about the 405 expansion project, and actually, I don't know if people realize, because you haven't seen a lot of construction activity yet on the 405, but you've already broken ground. When did that happen?
Our groundbreaking ceremony was in January of this year, and the initial activities actually commenced in March.
So when we're talking today about a 6-year project, it's already well underway.
Correct.
So you kicked off the project. Now, in the early phases of this expansion, what will drivers expect to see along the road?
Primarily, they'll see the concrete barrier up on the shoulders of the freeway, protecting our workers, and so the activities can safely happen behind that barrier. Also, they'll see some restriping, some vegetation removal to make way for the widening, some earthwork, before the real heavy bridge work will start later this year.
What you've just described, does that involve lane closures?
Yes, there is sometimes lane closures associated with that work, primarily just lane closures though, not full freeway closures or more significant closures associated.
And those lane closures take place at night. So one of the items that's important to note is we put in our contract that we can't have lane closures during the day when there's so many folks utilizing the freeway. So when there are lane closures, they happen at night. A lot of the work, initial work happens at night. And then there's kind of a gradual ramp up through the summer and into the fall when we start seeing some more significant construction that the public will really notice.
When you say night, what is your target hour to end in the early morning hours to prepare for the start of rush hour?
Generally, it's 5 a.m. And it's dependent, it goes by day. What we do is look at the traffic volumes historically on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and we provide the contractor hours that he has to be done by, and that's really when the morning commute starts to begin.
However, on the weekends, they're allowed to work a little bit later, so sometimes it could be more around 7 a.m. that the lane closures would be picked up, based again on traffic volume.
So in the coming months, if you're driving at night, expect some lane closures. During the day, know that you as the project managers are doing the very best you can to make sure that there are not lane closures for rush hour traffic. But at what point do we reach a point in time where there is a significant job that needs to be done, and yes, drivers will be impacted? What will be maybe the first phases of something, a larger project like that?
A lot of our work will happen behind the concrete barrier that Christina mentioned. But for instance, one of the items that you suggested could be a bridge demolition. As I mentioned earlier, there's 18 bridges being replaced on this project. So we'll have to demolish the old bridge at some point. So we will do that at night, but at that bridge location, the freeway will be closed. So we'll have a detour route set up for traffic to move around during the middle of the night, but to move around the bridge and get back onto the freeway on the other side.
It wasn't long ago before people could not imagine an actual freeway closure to brace for construction in the very first, as we all remember, Carmageddon, and we all survived. So what have you learned since then to know that this is going to work out okay?
Well, there's a lot of things. We don't currently have a Carmageddon type event planned, but there are sometimes a need for a weekend closure if a certain item just takes longer than a night. But I think what we've learned overall is Christina and her group does an outstanding job of getting the word out to take alternative routes. And the public has been great in the past about heeding that advice and maybe going down the 22 instead of down the 405 that particular night. So getting the word out is by far the single most important thing we can do, because the public usually is great about listening to that word and trying to find another way around the construction zone.
This whole project is a design-build project. Explain what that means.
What that means is we hire one entity to both design and construct the project. Traditionally, we hire one entity to design it and then a separate entity to construct it. The beauty of design-build is it allows those folks, design and construction, to coordinate together to innovate, to do things that will help minimize traffic impacts. The contractor knows a lot about the methods he's going to use to build certain things that maybe a designer wouldn't know as much. So it allows them really to communicate and get innovative products out there that may be done quicker, may be done more cost effectively, and at the end of the day trying to minimize those impacts to the traveling public and the residents around the construction area.
Christina, when you talk to people, and it's your job to get the word out in the right way so that everybody understands this project and can do their best to avoid any areas that might impact them in their daily commutes. All of that to say, when you talk to people, how are you able to explain the priority that was placed on making this as easy as possible on drivers? And it might have been at a greater cost, or it might have been at a slower pace for the project. What are you able to assure them of?
It's important to note that we put a lot of thought into the way we've developed this project and sort of the various moving parts, and making sure that in the development of the traffic management plan, while the major activities are underway, that we reroute people in such a way that they're still able to get to their destinations. If we have bridges under work, no 2 consecutive bridges are underway. If we have ramp work going done, we don't have 2 bridges under closures at the same time. And there may be quite a bit of activity going on simultaneously. Of course it would need to be in order for us to accomplish this amount of work in a reasonable fashion. However, we are making sure people know what to expect, when it's going to happen. When there's any of this bridge activity, demolition, we're notifying them well in advance of that night work, so they're prepared. They know what to expect. We have grassroots endeavors where we have actual neighborhood meetings where they can come ask the designers, ask the engineers their specific questions about their property, so they have a sense of comfort that a lot of thought has gone into this prior to the work commencing.
So in a quick thought, how much priority given to making this easy for the drivers?
A considerable amount of.
It's one of our project goals. We have project goals such as bring it in within the cost, bring it in within the schedule, which is early 2023 to be complete. But right up there with that at the top is minimizing disruptions to the residents, businesses, and traveling public that are critical to make sure they get to work on time and aren't negatively impacted.
Well, it's a big job and there will be traffic jams. So when we come back, let's talk about how people can stay ahead of the traffic. We'll be back right after this.
Because play might be the best way to fight obesity.
Because staying connected makes my family stronger.
Because a safe place after school can lead to success in school.
Because physical activity is vital to my health and well-being.
Because I need to make my world better.
Because playing team sports teaches character and social skills.
Because we need each other.
Because we need each other.
Because we need each other.
Again, thanks for joining us. Continuing now with our conversation about the 405 freeway expansion. You did a lot of community outreach leading up to this project, and that was to not surprise Orange County with, hey, this is coming your way, because it is such a massive project. How'd you go about that?
We had hundreds of meetings over the course of the last several years. Matter of fact, the last decade. We had a series of public hearings, and we've also had a lot of civic and community presentations, your Lions Club, Kiwanis, all of those groups. In addition, we've engaged all of the school districts in the conversation, made sure that any of their concerns are addressed, as well as homeowners associations, chambers of commerce, pretty much anyone and everyone that was interested in learning more, we would speak with them.
Other than getting stuck in traffic, how do I avoid that? What were some of the questions coming your way?
Often we got asked why the various types of lanes that we're going to have on this project, why the express lanes versus just adding more general purpose lanes. And we explained that we really can't build our way out of this project or out of this program, or what am I saying, problem, as far as how many lanes. There's too many that we would need to add to the freeway in order for there to be free flow. So with the express lanes, it provides choice to the driver. For paying a toll, they would have the option of going faster than in perhaps the general purpose lanes. Also, carpoolers will continue to be able to use those express lanes. So based on the toll policy that we've developed, we have various options for people, and I would encourage the public to go online to our website to see the nuances of that toll policy, but it does provide options for various motorists.
Have the toll lanes simply proven themselves as opposed to just larger carpool lanes? What is the research there for anybody that's kind of disappointed that the 405 is now going to have a toll?
I think over time they've...
And I should clarify, one lane of the 405. We're not turning it into a toll road.
Correct. We'll still have 5 regular lanes to be utilized. As Christina said, they provide a choice. But over time, they have been proven from a traffic standpoint that having the 2 express lanes and 5 regular lanes in one direction provides the most vehicle and people throughput through the corridor. So it just gets the most folks to where they want to go quicker. And it has a tremendous benefit for both the regular lanes and the express lanes.
So for people that want to know, how am I going to survive this, especially if this stretch of the 405 is part of their commute, what do you have to offer?
I would encourage them first and foremost to check our website, which is octa.net/405improvement. On that website is general information about the project, but also the ability for them to sign up on our database. By doing so, they will receive weekly updates from us on the major closures and detours associated with the projects and a forecast of activities. Also on that website is an interactive map, and that interactive map provides you the ability to toggle over each of the structures that we have under construction to get more information as far as how many lanes are on the bridge now, how many will be there in the future, same with cyclist lanes and sidewalks. And also any events that we may be at, any presentations we're scheduled to make, they would have the ability to see that information as well.
And for drivers like myself that I'm already on the road and I'm hoping my device is hands-free telling me something I need to know, what do you have to offer for drivers that need to know right now?
We're partnering with all the navigation apps on the market, and of course if any new technology comes out, we'll certainly embrace that. We're trying to customize our communications to every stakeholder that could possibly need information. We have a unique partnership with Waze, and Waze, we're providing our closure and detour information proactively to them, so it's built into their algorithm for them to navigate motorists accordingly during construction.
But other navigational tools could work as well. You're just
Correct.
saying that you have a special relationship
Absolutely.
with Waze.
Yes.
All right. And is that unique for your agency to reach out through social media? It's not something that works for every government agency, but OCTA is on board?
Yes, OCTA very much embraces social media, and we utilize all the platforms that are most popular, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, for all of our major infrastructure projects. And Waze, this partnership we have with them, is the very first of its kind for the agency, so we're super excited about it.
Now, I'm sure you both drive, and in the next 5+ years as this project is underway, could there maybe be any new technology that you'd hope for even as just a driver that might even help this project, this process further?
Absolutely. One of the things that we've talked about is, like, for instance, the transponder technology. That may evolve over time. We don't know. Maybe by the time this facility opens, our cell phone may be our transponder. But nothing that we've done in planning for this project will preclude us to embrace any future technology that may come online.
As we wrap up our conversation about a project that's going to affect so many, in general, how are you feeling? And especially to you, you're in the spotlight because you're in charge of this project. Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling good going forward? Is it's already just in the early planning stages getting underway?
We are feeling confident, and the reason for that confidence is we have a good contractor on board who knows what he's doing, and we also have a tremendous partnership with the stakeholders involved, that being the cities, Caltrans, everybody who's involved has a common goal, which is to get this project completed on time, do it in a manner that will minimize disruptions to everybody involved. And that's the reason that I'm confident, is we have a great team working on the project and a great group of stakeholders that has a common goal to deliver the project in the time we said it would be delivered.
What is your estimated completion date?
It is January 2023 is our estimated completion date to have all lanes operational.
Now, what might factor into that? Is weather a factor? I'm trying to come up with anything beyond weather. You're more in tune with a project like this. What other factors could be involved?
Weather is an important one, but there's also always risks on a project of this magnitude. Some of those, for instance, are we need to move certain utilities that are in the way, maybe power lines that are on a local street. We work very, very hard with those utilities companies to make sure they get done on time, but traditionally that has been a challenge, so we invest heavily to make sure that gets done. Things like permitting, which we have to get a permit to cross over the Santa Ana River, for instance. We invest very heavily again to make sure that we're on top of all of those risks, and most importantly, that we identify those risks and have a plan moving forward if they arise.
Well, I want to thank you both so much. Again, it's a massive project. I think that you've made it clear that you placed a tremendous priority on making it a livable project so people can still get their kids to school, find their way to work, and it's going to be tough, but you've also done a lot in terms of reaching out to help folks understand, stay ahead of the detours, be aware of the dates and times that might be more impactful. Anything else that you want to add just to let people know that you're there for them should they be having a difficult time with this project?
Absolutely. We, as an agency, we're part of this community too. We understand that construction's never a good neighbor, but please use us as a resource during the work. Contact us via email or phone call, place a phone call if you have any questions or concerns, and we're there for you and committed to getting you the answers that you may need.
And I would also say we appreciate everybody's patience, because at the end of the job, the benefits will be real, and there'll be a real sense of benefit when the project is complete. So we appreciate everybody's patience getting there.
How much of a significant change will it make? What is the traveling time now, and what will it be once this project is finished?
Travel time savings is probably the easiest one to kind of compare. Right now, as Christina said earlier, it takes about an hour to travel this corridor in rush hour. In 2040, if we didn't do anything, it would take about 2 hours if you were in the regular lanes or the carpool lane. When we're done with the project, we anticipate it'll take about a half hour in the regular lanes and about 15 minutes if you choose to carpool or pay a toll and use the express lanes.
Well, we'll all just plan on making the best of it over the next 5+ years as we get there. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
And that's going to wrap it up for this episode. For more information about the 405 Freeway Expansion Project, visit the Orange County Transportation Authority website at octa.net/405 improvement. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Valerie Starn, and we'll see you next time on CityWorks.